Good afternoon, and welcome to the second installment of the Faces of Agriculture and USDA Speaker Series, hosted by the USDA Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement. The purpose of this speaker series is to connect students with current USDA researchers, scientists, technicians, engineers, foresters, and other STEM-related program managers to learn about their story, career path, and exciting projects and initiatives they may be working on at USDA that serve the public interest, all while helping to inspire the next generation of agricultural workforce. In addition to today's speakers, we invite students to visit USDA's Youth and Agriculture website to learn more about internship, scholarship, and other great programs for youth. The website can be found at usda.gov/youth. Before we begin, we ask all attendees to place their phones and devices on mute. This event will be recorded, and a copy of the recording will be available to participants by the end of the week. We welcome and encourage questions for our speakers. If you have any questions for our speakers, please place your question in the chat box and we will address all questions at the end of each speaker. I want to take this moment to thank our speakers and participants for taking time out of your busy schedules to learn and grow as a community. Without further delay, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Silvia Giza currently serves as a mathematical statistician for the National Agricultural Statistics Service. She began her career at USDA as a Public Service Leader Scholar and Pathways intern, later transitioning to a full-time employee. Silvia credits her time as a student intern as an opportunity to learn about the diversity in agriculture. She is now working at the agency's headquarters located in Washington, D.C. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you again for the opportunity to talk to everyone. Once again, my name is Silvia Giza, and I work for USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service in the Methodology Division. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Washington State to two parents who were both migrant workers. They used to do a track from California, Washington, Oregon, and resided in the Rio Grande Valley. Once my sister and I were born, we settled in Washington State. So as a result, agriculture has always been a big part of who I am. As far as my educational career path, I did receive an Associates of Arts from Columbia Basin College. Having been a community college graduate has really set me up for the rest of my educational trajectory. I received a Bachelor's of Arts from Eastern Washington University, where I studied mathematics with an emphasis in economics. I also did have the opportunity to continue my education through the Pathways Scholar Program, where NASS, the National Agricultural Statistics Service, was my sponsoring agency. They supported me through my educational process at Washington State University. Throughout my education, I did have the opportunity to take advantage of 4 different internships, all related to agriculture, and 2 happened to be with USDA. My first USDA internship was with FSA. This was during my undergraduate, and I had the opportunity to participate as a HAKU intern. As a HAKU intern, I was assigned to the Bryan County office, where I did have the opportunity to learn a little bit about FSA, NRCS, and rural development. This gave me the opportunity to have hands-on approach of what the different USDA agencies do have the opportunity to work with different farmers. In my master's studies, I also did get the opportunity to intern with the Washington field office with NASS, and this was located in Olympia, Washington. The different internships that I did have the opportunity to take advantage of allowed me to work on my soft skills and gave me the learning experience to see what opportunities that I would have upon completion of my degree. Through one of the biggest things that I learned through my educational career is the importance of setting up your network of individuals, because this is so important for myself, given that I'm come from a Hispanic family. Being held accountable and building my network throughout all my educational success has been important to me. These different networks I've continued to carry on throughout my career. These are definitely people that I continue to work with now and have advised me throughout my education. I participated in different organizations such as different TRIO programs. I was a McNair Scholar and had the opportunity to work as a tutor. So who is NAS? NAS is the statistical agency for the USDA. So a little history on NAS. George Washington actually was the first agricultural statistician. He distributed 8 survey questions to 5 states focusing on land values, prices, and yields. Abe Lincoln in 1862 established the U.S. Department of Agriculture. USDA was to gather information on U.S. agriculture, and the first report occurred on July of 1863. This was the first crop report. So some of our history. An introduction to NAS. Well, NAS was established in 1863 and was originally named the Division of Statistics. The first crop report developed in the new division was on crop conditions. Now NAS has more than 900 personnel, serves all 50 states and Puerto Rico, and has 12 regional field offices that are responsible for statistical work in several states. And we have a national operations center that's located in St. Louis. Our mission and values is to provide timely, accurate, and useful statistics to serve U.S. agriculture. And our core values are to be relevant to policy, be objective, be credible, and trust and commitment are some of the things that we value as an agency. So what we do, we collect, assemble, process, and disseminate U.S. agriculture data. We conduct hundreds of national, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual surveys at regional, state, and local levels. We conduct detailed agricultural census every 5 years. And we publish hundreds of national reports that report on crops, livestock, and different economic indicators. We partner with different state ag departments, universities, and others to conduct surveys. And we continuously try to research on advancing statistical science. What we do not do, we do not set policy, but we regulate activities and permit influence. We do not disclose individual reports and favor any other groups. So my 2 experiences with this, my entire career has been with NAS, and I've had 2 different experiences. My first experience was in the Northwest Regional Field Office, which is located in Washington State in Olympia, Washington. So as a part of being an employee in the field office, it was a little different than what I currently do. Similar to NAS is very specific on timelines and dates we have to meet. We have a set of publications that we're held accountable for based on our data users and different. So a lot of what you do within NAS is meet specific deadlines. So I manage surveys and set estimates for specific commodities for state and regional level, and different regions focus on different states. Because I was from Washington State, I had a lot of that influence of knowing a lot of being from an ag community. I did have the upper hand of learning, of having some prior knowledge, but I did have the opportunity to learn about different agriculture that wasn't specific to my region. This, within my time there, I was actually fortunate to have some experiences where I did get to communicate with farmers and conduct surveys, go on different farm tours. It was very hands-on. It was a cross between being able to go out in the field and be at my desk analyzing data. Since I was there for 3 years, and in November of 2016, I relocated to Washington, D.C. And I currently work in the methodology division. Within the methodology division, there's people who select the sample of the farmers and just an array of different, but my specific duties are to manage an in-house estimation tool, which heavily depends on maintaining databases and the use of data visualization. Due to security and being able to show people certain data, I just kind of put these different images. One of the things that I do support is lockup, which is the reports that are kind of released every month about crop production, and with the different numbers, there's specific commodities that are speculative commodities that are traded within the stock market. So that's why you can see that phone being locked up and the secretary being briefed about the different, in that case, it was a cotton board. But my current role supports the dissemination of that data and things, the timeline meeting those specific deadlines. I went the wrong way. Sorry about that. And this fall, I actually will begin to work on a second master's that my agency is currently supporting, and I'll be studying at University of Maryland in a survey methodology degree with an emphasis in data science. I'm really excited about this opportunity because I'll be able to continue to focus on the data-driven career that I've currently had and be able to continue to meet the initiatives of continuing to upgrade and elevate the data user experience. And that's it for my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions or.
Thank you, Silvia. I greatly appreciate your time and sharing your story with us. We're now going to turn it over to our chat box for a question and answer portion of the presentation. Just a reminder, please go to your chat box if you have any questions for Silvia. Before we, in order to get started, we have one already ready to go. First of all, what made you decide on joining USDA?
I actually had a mentor who was part of the Giza Fellow program, and she gave me the opportunity to come to the South Building and learn about the different agencies that were available. And at the time, I was a big math nerd, and I loved statistics. So when I heard about NAS, I thought it was really exciting and fun. So I always kept that in the back of my mind, and when I heard about the pathways, I thought that was a great opportunity to be able to learn about what USDA does, to continue my education and learn and take the opportunity of the internship.
Awesome. So our next question comes from Aletta Wolf. Aletta asks, did you already have your master's degree when you began at USDA?
Yes, I had. It's not necessary, but As being a pathway scholar, my commitment was my master's degree, and that upon completion, I would serve the amount of years that were paid for my education. I would serve with years. So yes, but it's not necessary with NAS. We just need some statistics and some math.
And how many years have you been at USD already?
6 years, counting my internship. Sorry.
Wonderful. Okay. Our next question is from Anna Marti. Anna asks, what is your availability for coming to Phoenix College as an invited speaker? Phoenix College is a Hispanic institution.
I'd have to check with my supervisor. But you can reach out to me.
So you're already getting invitations to be a guest speaker at an institution. Please feel free to continue typing your questions. Next question we have for you is, what has been the most challenging barrier you have had to overcome during your career journey?
Oh, wow, that's hard. I would say time management and especially right now, being quarantined and working from home and living in the city. I only live in 500 square feet. I have to really, I would say this has been hard for me because of timelines and stuff like that. But time management and finding the time to like step away and not just sit for 8+ hours at my desk. So remembering to take care of myself so I can focus at work.
And I would ask along the same lines. Now you mentioned you probably started your career in the field and now are in headquarters. So what have been some of your kind of major challenges to adjusting to working at headquarters, or what do you miss from working in the field?
Working in the field, I miss going out into the field and being able to go on a farm tour and actually being there and connecting with people. As far as working in headquarters, I love the idea that I can work on different teams that directly impact whether it's how things are done within our agency or work across different agencies. So being able to collaborate within USDA with other individuals is great.
Wonderful. Earlier in your presentation, you talked about your network and the importance of tapping into your network. So I'm wondering, do you still tap into that same network, and also how has it expanded over your career journey?
I definitely still tap into my old network and I think that that's very important. I think because of who I am and my being Hispanic and having family be a big thing, I think it's really important to stay grounded and remember what's going out in the field. And I think like having my network there kind of helps me like keep an ear on the ground kind of a deal. I would say expanding in my network here, I think that I've always trying to find a new thing that I could be involved in. Within my agency, I've played different roles. I've tried to be a part of different organizations and just staying in touch with whether it's the statistics field, had different mentors. I think mentorship is very important and gives you the opportunity to really get to know people in a different way. And just like I said earlier, I think that as much as you put in, you'll get out. And I know it can be gruesome to like want to put in that extra effort, and might take some time, but it's well worth it. And to anyone out there, like, remember that the small things, like maybe an internship, that I had an internship where I filed papers, and sometimes just talking to a lot of the support staff, I think the support staff could be your biggest person that can help you with just about anything. So I think that that's always been something I've tried to do, is like to remember that no small task can be like, you never know until retroactively, you never know what that experience might bring. So yes, I think I continue to grow my network. And sorry, just rambled.
No, that was perfect. And I think you actually answered part of our next question. So Ruby asked, do you have a mentor? And how important are mentors in your academic professional career? So I would also add, if you do have a mentor, how long has that person been your mentor, or have you mentored changed throughout your college and professional career?
I currently don't have an official mentor. I've had like 3 or 4 unofficial mentors that I tend to like rely on. And one of the one that stands out was the fellow that I mentioned. She worked at my community college, and I've always gone back and talked to her, asked her different questions. I recently was part of a mentoring program last year, a year ago. Yeah. And being able to have a mentor that isn't supervising you, and not being a part of your like career path is totally important, because then they give you an unbiased opinion as to where you, like, how you can, and it's sometimes it's someone who you can vent to, not necessarily negatively, but like how you can communicate just certain ideas off them. I think it's important to have someone who has more experience than you to be able to just bounce some ideas off of.
I want to kind of expand on that question and ask, so do you have any mentees, or are you willing to take on any mentees from our students that are joining us today?
I do not have any mentees. I've never been a mentor, and I would totally be open to the idea of having a mentee.
Okay, wonderful. So Silvia does have a contact information there if you want to reach out to her for mentorship. I have one more question for you before we move on to our next speaker, and that is, what is next for you in your career path?
So like I mentioned, I will be pursuing a second master's. So for the next 3 years, I will actually be doing half part-time work and part-time school. So I'm really excited about being able to brush up on my skills and learn some new things, and be able to come back and push some of our strategic initiatives of like vamping up our data user, like our websites, and just how far, like bring NAS with the new like movement of big data and data visualization. So I really want to be a part of that and be a part of that team. So that's something I'm really excited for.
Wonderful. We wish you the best with that. Silvia, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day to share your story. Really appreciate it. And with that, I want to turn it back to my colleague Ruby, who will introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Julio, and thank you, Silvia, again. Our next speaker is Raylene Comets, who currently serves as the Washington State's Deputy Equal Opportunity Officer and State Conservationist for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. Raylene was born and raised on the Blackfeet Nation in northwestern Montana. Her family continues to reside on the original allotment the government assigned to her great-great-grandfather, right at the door. Raylene began work with NRCS 29 years ago as a student trainee. After graduation, she worked full-time as a soil conservationist and district conservationist for NRCS in several field offices in Montana, State American Indian Liaison for Arizona, and Assistant State Conservationist for Field Operations for Oklahoma. Additionally, she has served as State Conservationist in Rhode Island and Washington State. Raylene, take it away.
So good afternoon, everybody. What an honor to get this opportunity to share with you a lot of my career and where I've been and what I've been able to do with USDA. I'm going to share with you a presentation that I've done throughout my career with the agency and being able to share who I am. And I think that's one of the advantages that I feel of working with USDA is that USDA is so open to doing these kind of things and being able to let us be who we are and share our culture, share where we come from, and things like that. And so this is my introduction. I'm like Ruby said, I'm Raylene, and many of you probably know me as Rides at the Door that have worked with me in the past. I recently got married a year ago, and so I now have taken on my husband's last name too. But as you can both see, they're very unique names because of the culture that we come from. I am a member of the Blackfeet Nation in Montana, born and raised there. And basically what you see on here is also my Indian name that was given to me by my tribe and spiritual people of my tribe. And so when I go to ceremonies, Painted Weasel Woman is basically who I am and who I am called in ceremony. So let's see if I can figure out how to get this to work. Again, some of my careers you heard, I started out as a trainee. We didn't call it Pathways then. Believe it or not, I've been around long enough that we have renamed the program, but I work for the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and I came up through the ranks to the agency. I was a soil conservationist in many locations in Montana, my home state. And then I actually was a district conservationist, which is the leader of an office there in Shelby, Montana. I got the unique opportunity and I was recruited by a state conservationist in Arizona to try out a brand new position. And that position was a state tribal liaison. And now we see many of our USDA agencies have actually tribal liaisons and things like this, but I can say that I was one of the very first state tribal liaisons. So it was kind of cool. I got to go and try it out, develop the position for the agency for USDA to show how that position could be extremely, extremely important to USDA and to what we do. And then I moved on as the assistant state conservationist for field operations in Oklahoma. And what a wonderful opportunity to be able to represent the field offices to the leadership and vice versa and really, really make that stand. I was the first American Indian female state conservationist ever, and I may actually still be the first I may be still the only American Indian female state conservationist for the Natural Resource Conservation Service. But what a tremendous opportunity it has been. I probably should back up a little bit and let you know that I did graduate from Montana State University. I am a second generation graduate. I am fortunate enough that my father also graduated from Montana State. And what was really cool is by the time I came into Montana State, my dad advisor was now the Dean of Agriculture of Montana State, which was really, really cool. So I was able to get that additional support. One of the things that I like to stress to people and tell people, again, working for USDA, one of the things that it's allowed me to do is really develop my leadership skills and who am I. And one of the things that I've been able to pass on to a lot of others is also what strengths do I have as an Indian leader for this agency and for as leadership as a whole. So one of the things I think Silvia has stressed in her presentation is want to make a difference with individual, family, and communities. Have a vision and cultivate it. No matter where you're at in the agency, what position you hold, what do you do for the department, all of that is extremely, extremely important. Don't be afraid to take risks and really step out there and step out of your box so that you can figure out where do you best fit and find that place that you're destined to do. And I've been fortunate enough, I could have easily stayed as assistant for field operations in Oklahoma. I loved the place there. I loved working with the staff there. But I found real quickly that I really needed to be in a position that was more influential, not only for the staff, but also for our customers, because we work a lot with the farmers and ranchers. We're one of the few agencies that actually work on private land. And most people don't realize that the majority of the land in America is private. And so we get that fortunate. So it was really being able to decide where do you fit in all of this. Help out others is another great value. You know, what do you do to help your community, help others that are in circumstances and situations as you're going through and doing all of this? And live your culture and your heritage. Don't be afraid to share that. Be proud of where you come from, because I believe the strength of USDA is the fact that it is our diversity. I'm fortunate enough to be a state conservationist. There are 51 of us in the nation. There are only 12 women now in NRCS that are conservationists. But when I get the opportunity to sit at the table with the leadership of our agency, I am so proud of the culture and the diversity that we have in our leadership team, and the fact that we do represent what America is truly about. Again, one of the things I stress about helping your community, you heard Silvia talking about being a part of organizations, being a part of helping and this kind of stuff. I was fortunate enough that I've been a part of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society since I was in high school. I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity through this society to participate at the International Science Fair, and that really started to expose me to other things and other possibilities. Again, I grew up on an Indian nation or an Indian reservation, somewhat isolated, saw one color of people and they all looked like me. And so this was a really huge opportunity for me to be able to see what the world was really about and what opportunities were really out there. And this organization also helped me to really focus on going to college. One of the things that what was really cool being a part of this organization for as long as I had been, is that when I came on board with USDA, NRCS, I was able to bring USDA to this organization, and this organization has annual conferences, recruiting conferences, and so I was able to get the leadership of our agency to help be a sponsor of this annual conference. And when you now look at our numbers as far as parity in a sense compared to the national average of how many American Indians should be hired for an organization, we in NRCS exceed that number. And I think a huge part of it is because of the fact that I was able to get the agency to work this direction. And also, as you can see these people in the picture, we developed a recruiting cadre of a very diverse group of people that came to the table to really help recruit American Indians to the agency. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Heck, I'm from Montana, born and raised. I went to Rhode Island. What an experience to see a different kind of culture, to see how things are done in a different part of the country. I got to learn about oysters, as you can see here in this picture. It was really, really out of my box. But my dad asked me, he said, I didn't understand. Why are you going to Rhode Island? How is that getting you closer to home? And I said, Dad, if I can do the job as a state conservationist, then when the position comes open in the West, then I can apply and they'll have no way to turn me down. And my plan worked, it worked really, really well. But what was really cool is I was able to move to all of these different locations, from Montana to Arizona to Oklahoma to Rhode Island, and get that experience of how they do agriculture, how operations work, how they do farming, how they do conservation, so that when I got to Washington, guess what? Washington is the #1 in the country for oysters. So I was able to come here and be in Washington State. And I remember a person asking me, how does a Montana woman know about oysters? I know about Rocky Mountain oysters, but not necessarily other oysters. And I was able to have that experience when I was in Rhode Island. And when I was in Rhode Island, we were the first in the country to implement a conservation program for oyster producers. And then I was able to bring that here in Washington when I got here. So again, don't be afraid to take risks. This is my great-great-grandfather, rides at the door, where my family has basically has his last name. In our American Indian culture, we would never pass down, we would never have a consistent name. A name is one that you earn by a deed that you complete in your life. And so with my grandpa, he earned the name because he would ride up to enemy tribe into the door of the teepee, and he would snatch a medicine bag that was near or on the teepee. And so he earned that name of rides at the door. So again, know where you're from. I'm fortunate enough that my tribe has been in the Montana area and Alberta area for over 10,000 years. So it's an interesting concept, because people will say, well, why won't the tribe move on this? Well, the tribe won't move on this because the tribe's been here for 10,000 years and they're not going anywhere. So unless we take that time, it makes it extremely difficult. Again, values: understand who you are, know where you come from, never forget where you come from, and have pride in yourself and all those that came before you. Not only came before you in your culture, in your family, but have pride in those people that came before you in the agency, the history of your agency, the history of the department. We are the people's department. So what an honor to be a part of that department, where we can continue to relay that and be the people's department, and be that for NRCS to be that agency that works with private landowners on the land. And so have pride in that too. Know your responsibility with all of those relationships and all those that came before you and those that are going to come after you, in a sense. So again, I'm fortunate this just gives you a great example of where I come from. This is my homeland of the Blackfeet Nation. A lot of people, if you've ever been to Glacier National Park, you're well aware of the one picture off to the far left. This is the picture of going to the sun. And if you read the brochures and all of that stuff, you will see that it's going to the SUN. Well, that's really a great idea if you think that's where it's going to, but for the Blackfeet, that is not the case. The mountain, not the Triangle Mountain in front, but the one behind it, is a very, very sacred mountain to my people, because it is an area where we believe Nape, who was Creator's son, S-O-N, went to that mountain. And so for us, we were trying to tell the people that were coming into our homeland that that's where Nape went to that mountain. So, but they've named it going to the SUN, not quite the same concept as the tribe. But I know where I come from. I know, and I'm fortunate enough that my people remain on our original homeland. So we know where our sacred mountains are. We know what our history is and where we come from. Again, share major values with others. It's not only our way, but it's many different ways. Maintain your spirituality. Observe and listen more than you talk, and realize that everyone is born in here for a reason and has a purpose in their life. And that's the one thing that I think that the agency has really done, and the department has done, is we really try to recognize people and what their value is that they bring to us. Again, just an example of this: observe and listen more than you talk. In my tribe, I have elders. This particular elder was an elder that taught me about Mother Earth and some of the lessons about cool, clean water, Mother Nature. We call it the Indian laws. The first law still remains, and hope for a new day, given heart, courage, and stand for what's right, and humor. Don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. Have discipline. Don't make promises you can't keep. Be open to change. Solicit input and feedback. Deal with issues. Do not dump issues on others, and do not be afraid to correct your wrongs. And I stress this a lot on people that are coming into careers, people that are coming into the agency, people that are here, people that have been here for a long time. It's important that you maintain your truth and honesty and integrity. Find that place where you fit. I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to be a part of a group like this. Silvia again alluded about being a part of an organization. I was actually with these individuals in the picture. We formed the American and Alaska Native Employees Association for our agency to help recognize the culture of our people. And it gives us a venue to be able to really connect and be able to find that home away from home. As you saw, I moved multiple places, and it was really a struggle at first. And then I was able to find a group of people within the department who basically became my family, my sounding board, in some senses, my interpreter. Because I had been raised on a reservation, I struggled to understand some of the concepts that we had, and they were great to really help me to do that. So that's what I have for a presentation at this point. Again, just to give you a little bit of my background, like I said, I went to Montana State. I've been with the agency now 30 years, and I'm pretty shocked about that in some days, because I remember there were days when I thought, man, there is no way that I'm going to last. I remember being with the agency 5 years and finding things somewhat so culturally conflicting for me that I didn't think I was going to make it. And here I am 30 years later, and I'm still here, and I'm now a leader in the agency. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Raylene. Really appreciate your time and sharing both your personal and career journey with us here today. Again, a reminder, please type your questions for Raylene in our chat box. And our first question actually comes to us from Silvia. Silvia wants to ask, how did you know when it was time to move on to the next opportunity?
Ooh, that's a great one. I tell you, I have a rule of thumb. If I feel it in my gut, if I feel it in my heart, and I feel it in my mind, and all three say this is a go, I jump. I have been able to, I'll give you an example. I was in Arizona, and I was the state tribal liaison. Again, a brand new position. I got to mold the position. I got to meet some wonderful tribal people. But I also found out that in that position at that moment in time, it got to a point that I became a barrier for our agency to truly understand the tribes there in the state. And what I mean by that is they kept saying, well, Raylene says this, or Raylene is telling the tribes this, and that was not the case. I was not telling the tribes what to say, what to do, what to be a part of. And so I recognized that I was a barrier, but I also realized that I needed to move up and be able to help the leadership in the agency to understand a community of people even better. Believe it or not, when I came on with the agency in 1990, this is gonna be hard to believe, but the Farm Bill literally had 2 sentences in it about tribes. And I came on with the agency saying, wow, 90% of the tribes have land and they're agriculturally centered, and yet why isn't USDA helping them? And so it didn't take me long to realize that I needed to move up to be able to influence and be able to share that story. I was also fortunate enough to have a mentor that asked me a question, and I had to really think about it. And her question was, do you want to stay in your county where you could help 200 people, or do you want to move up in the state where you or your area where you're helping 500 people or 1,000 people or whatever, or do you want to move up in the agency where you could help thousands of people? And that's all it took. And I knew I needed to make that path. So.
Thank you, Raylene. Our next question also comes from Ana Matiz Subirana. Anna wants to know also, what is your availability for coming to Phoenix College as an invited guest speaker?
Oh, please send me an email. Actually, the presentation I just shared with you, I've been fortunate enough, again, the agency has supported me in so many ways. I've been able to talk to FDIC. I was able to go and do a presentation with a group called SAGE, Society of American Indian Government Employees. I've been able to do that. The agency's been great to support me and let me go out there and share my story. So absolutely, send me an email and we can definitely talk about it.
Wonderful. Quintanay Holyfield from the Forest Service states, Raylene, thank you for your perseverance and having been with 30 years with the agency. And our next question, we want to ask, what made you decide on working for USDA?
So what's interesting about that, the story behind why I'm working for USDA, my father, like I told you, had graduated from Montana State. He had actually became our Bureau of Indian Affairs Natural Research Director, had decided that that basically he wanted to explore different opportunities out there. So my dad was never afraid to step out there and be the first American Indian to do this or that. So he actually applied for a USDA program through our agency called the Great Plains Program at that time. And we got that, we actually were awarded a contract to do, to build all of this barbed wire fence to cross fence our ranch. Our ranch is about 5,000 acres. And so I came home from college and my dad said, hey, I got a part of this program. It's a great program. But by the way, for this summer, we're going to spend the summer and we're going to build over 13 miles of fence. And I got to tell you, at the end of the summer, I'm like, who the hell are these people? I need to find out who this agency is that made us do all this hard work and do all of these things. And it just happened that the state office was in Bozeman, where I was going to college. So I, believe it or not, I went to the state office, and I think what probably made the difference was I happened to get in the elevator with the state conservationist at that time. And we were in the elevator and he started to ask me questions. And I told him, well, we have a contract with you guys and I just want to know more about you and da-da-da-da-da. And believe it or not, by the end of that conversation, he directed me to his deputy state conservationist. And the next thing I know, I was offered an internship or to be a part of the student program my junior year of college. So that's how I got a part of the agency, was I wanted to check these people out who made us work so hard.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. It goes to show you what a small world it is and also how important first impressions are. Our next question I wanted to ask is, if you got to change one thing about your career journey, what would you change?
Wow, I've had a great journey. Actually, there was only one area that I would change, and that would be that I would have applied for a position that was non-technical. In the past, our agency had what we called resource conservation and development coordinators. And they were coordinators positions that worked with multiple partners, and their job was to work with multiple partners and get those partners to coordinate and come up with strategies and plans of how to deal with things on a watershed level. And I wished I would have had that experience. I think that would have helped me to understand partners more. It would have helped me a lot as I stepped into the shoes of a state conservationist or a state director. And so that's probably the one thing I would have done, is I think I would have taken the time to do that and really look at it. Along that line, probably one other thing that I'm facing now, as I've got 30 years in, I think I would have taken more time to not move up so fast. Now I'm in a situation where I have the years, but I don't have the age. So I'm not eligible to draw my full retirement for a little while. And if I really wanted to stay and work until I could draw Social Security, I'll have over 40-something years in, 45 years in with the agency. And I got to tell you, I can tell you right now, I'm not up to that at all. You know, I'm not up to staying that long with the agency. So I'm kind of in a pickle right now, because I love what I do. I love where I'm at, but I'm a senior state conservationist. I had many people tell me, you don't want to be a state conservationist more than 15, 16 years. And so the problem is I'm hitting that limit right now. I've been a state conservationist. There's actually only one more in the nation that has more time than me. And I'm up to the situation now. What do I do? How do I stay enough to get to the retirement age I need, but yet I'm not really, I don't know if I want to change a career. I don't want to go to DC and be in the national office. So I'm kind of in a situation like that. So I think I wish that if I would have thought this through a little bit longer, I think I would have spent more time in the field and not tried to hurry up and get to a leadership position so I could change the world, because now I'm in a situation where I don't know what I'm going to do next for the next few years until I'm eligible to retire.
So I kind of think you answered two other questions we had for you. But one was, what advice would you give your younger self? And the other one was, what's next in your career journey?
Yeah, for my journey, guys, I'm 30 years in. My next journey, again, I will have the age basically in 5 years, and I'm planning on finishing my 5 years and being able to leave the agency young enough where I still can do something else. I've been doing and working for NRCS since I was 19 years old. So I'm fortunate enough through the program and through the internship that I'm gonna be able to retire with a lot of full benefits and all of that and all that great and good stuff. So at this point, I'm just looking at getting those 5 years so that I can retire.
Okay, so I think we have room for one more question, and I'll end it with this one. Perhaps can you talk to us about maybe one of the coolest projects that you've worked on or most meaningful to you?
Wow, I'm fortunate. Our agency does some really cool things with people and with the land that we actually can make a difference in that. Let me think. Probably one of the coolest projects was one that we did with the Colville Nation here in Washington State. And the salmon, because of the Grand Coulee Dam and all of this stuff, the salmon had a barrier and a stop to a certain point. And so what you saw is about 75 years of this tribe losing its it's not only a fish, it's their culture, it's their language, it's who they are. They're spiritually connected to this animal, and we were able to go in through years of working with them in multiple programs. And I got to the state, and they needed some really big dollars, and so we were fortunate enough under the Obama administration. There was a push. We worked with the tribe. I worked with the tribe. Others worked with the tribe. We got the data together. I did my stuff of calling headquarters and our agency and explaining how important this project was, that we were able to get 2 big pots of money and 2 big programs to actually finish it. Part of the issue is that the railroad company had dumped a rock into a major waterfall, and we were able to use our dollars to go in and actually dynamite out some of these rocks and open up the channels and stuff. And so 2-3 years after that, we got to go to a ceremony, and they recognized our agency, and I was able to bring the chief of our agency to that ceremony, and the salmon had returned. And that was just a really, really, really cool experience to see all of that and how what it meant to the tribe. And the elders were crying and the children were happy, and all of that stuff, to know that in my mind, you know, the federal government for American Indian people in some cases has wronged us. And I felt in that moment, in that day, we made it right. We made it right. So that was, you know, I'm fortunate if I get to work those kind of things where I get to work with the politics, I get to work with legislators, I get to work with the secretary's office, I get to work with the chief of the agency, and really get to influence the right direction on some of these things. So I'm fortunate that way. So.
Thank you, Raylene. And actually, I can see one more question here in our chat box before we close out. Derek Suckstorf asked, Raylene, I am an instructor at Foxholder Job Corps in South Dakota. We have a large Native American population. Can you recommend a program or opportunity for youth to get a taste of working for USDA or other conservation agencies?
Contact the Intertribal Agriculture Council, the IAC. The IAC, through grants from USDA, has a great youth leadership program. I'm really excited to be working with them. I've been able to help our agency even put some funding in an agreement along with other USDA agencies to that organization. And they have a leadership program and a student program of about 150 Indian youth kids, and they help them to understand agriculture and work them through. But it also gives us an opportunity in December to sit down and actually meet these kids and really help them, to guide them for their next chapter in college, where they're going to go. Some of them are high school, some of them are college kids. It's a really great opportunity to help them to understand where they're at and that kind of stuff. You know, what's crazy is I met with a group, I did a presentation for their leadership class 2 years ago, and I walked into that room and these kids knew about the Farm Bill. When I was their age, I had no clue what the Farm Bill was, even what it was, and yet these guys could tell me what sections and all this stuff. So that organization does a really, really good job to help mold the Indian youth to the right direction and really help them. And if they don't want to work for USDA, great, but they help them maybe even work for their own tribe. So.
Thank you, Raylene. Okay, I think that closes us out. Actually, I'm turning it back to Tori, our colleague, to close out our session. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you everybody for attending this today's presentation. As a reminder, today's session will be recorded and available on USDA's YouTube. That's youtube.com/USDA at the end of the week. We'll also be sending it out via email. Thank you to our speakers, presenters, and attendees for learning and growing with us today. Again, we invite you to visit usda.gov/youth to learn more about some of our youth programs, internships, and scholarship programs. Thank you and have a great day.